Thank you for coming in. Columbian Editorial Board is pleased to welcome Julianna Marler, CEO of the Port of Vancouver, and she's joined by Abby Russell, Communications Manager for the Port. I'm Greg Jane, Editorial Page Editor. I believe you met Craig Brown, Metro Managing Editor, and also a member of the Editorial Board. And then also sitting in are reporters Damian Pasanti, Will Campbell, Troy Brynolson. They won't be asking questions in this meeting, but might want to speak with you afterwards. They will be taking notes. And finally, we are videotaping this. We'll post it on our website unedited, as we do with all of our editorial board meetings, for the benefit of our readers. So with the housekeeping out of the way, let's start with, I think the past couple of years, people have gotten to know a lot more about the commissioners, the Board of Commissioners for the Port. But explain to us, just really briefly, what exactly your role is at the Port, and we'll get into it from there.
So my role is the CEO at the Port. So I officially became the CEO at the Port, actually it was Valentine's of this year. And prior to that, I served as interim since the previous May. So, and I've actually been with the Port since 2008 in various leadership roles. So my role as CEO is, the Commission establishes policy for the Port and provides direction to myself as well as the staff. And so my role is to carry out the policy that the Commission sets. I also am responsible for the day-to-day operations of the Port. And the staff that the Port has, as well as, again, we have substantial operations, we have marine operations, we have industrial operations, and then, as you're aware, we have a new waterfront going up, so that's pretty exciting as well. So really, that is my role. I mean, there's a lot involved in the day-to-day operations, but kind of overall, that's really the role that I play there.
And so, under your auspices, how big is the staff, and what is the budget of it?
We have roughly 130 staff at the Port. That does not include our longshore, who does the operations on the waterfront. We also have a stevedoring company that manages the labor. And so that works for the Port. That includes our maintenance, our security, as well as our administrative staff. And our budget is close to $40 million. That is our operating budget. We also have a capital budget in addition to that varies anywhere from typically $30 to $40 million a year. And that has primarily been over the last decade as we've been investing in West Vancouver freight access.
Now, one of the big issues, obviously, in recent years has been a proposed oil terminal there. And as you mentioned, your role is to carry out direction from the Board of Commissioners.
Correct.
So they say, we want to bring this here. You don't have a say in whether or not it's approved or not approved. Just your job is to try and carry it out. And we set up this meeting several weeks ago, but it's rather timely now because we got word yesterday that the chair of the FSEC committee has resigned.
Sure.
What will that do to the process? Where do we go from here?
Honestly, I don't know. I learned probably at a similar time that you did that was the case. So we're just waiting to hear what next steps are. So.
How does that, it's been a long process, this FSEC review, and it looks like it's going to be a while longer. So how has that affected the Port's ability to conduct business, and has it put any kind of strain on your financial resources or other resources?
No, in fact, the Vancouver Energy Project has a relatively small footprint at the Port. The primary location where that facility would be is at our Terminal 5 loop, and we also have a parcel that's we call Parcel 1A, where the tanks would be located. So with our Terminal 5 loop, this would be located just at the very north portion of the loop. So we still have 86 acres to market at Terminal 5. So again, a relatively small footprint. So we are continuing to market the assets of the port and look for opportunities for new businesses to locate here. And so really, we continue to do business as usual. I mean, as you know, we have 50 plus tenants at the port, and we're very unique as a West Coast port that has space to grow. A lot of ports are landlocked, or they don't have the ability to expand any of the facilities, or you have companies that have to fit within certain existing structures, but we have land that is available to build new, so it's pretty exciting.
Now, if the oil terminal is approved, or if it's not approved, how important is that to the finances for the port?
Well, the way the port operates is we sustain our operations through our revenue. So we do collect property tax. That is approximately 10% of our budget currently, but that is used for environmental remediation as well as capital improvements. So the port sustains our operations through our marine terminal as well as our industrial tenants. Any supplemental revenue that we have, we reinvest, meaning we invest that back into developing infrastructure for future businesses to locate at the port, as well as projects. Terminal 1 is a good example. That we would be able to make investments for public benefit. So, as the port grows, as the port is able to get sites ready for development, that is very attractive for businesses coming to our area because you have land that is ready to go. So, going back to how this project would impact that, any revenue that we would generate off of that, we would invest. We don't currently have that in our existing financial models because it isn't permitted at this time. But if that was the case, then we would put that into our cash flow models, and then we would plan for the future.
And so for now, you are able to continue operations and continue to grow with or without the terminal.
Correct. Yes.
Does the delay in the review process cost you anything? So either in terms of just plain hard costs, or perhaps having people that are aimed at one thing when they could be doing another?
Sure. I mean, it does take resources for any opportunity that we have, and projects take time to go through the permitting process. And so we do have staff that is spending time on this project, and then we also have our legal team that works on it as well. So yes, it does take resources to continue to go through the process, and of course, the longer that we go through it, the more time folks are spending on that. But that's not their sole focus. Again, our team works on a variety of opportunities.
Right, with the staff that size. About how much time do you think that you're spending on the whole process right now?
On this process, it varies. It depends on what's going on at the time. If there's permit reviews, it's hard for me to really kind of answer that question because it just kind of has varied over the years.
You're not billing it out as a separate project kind of thing? Or?
Not that I'm aware of. We might have. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the answer to that.
And you mentioned that you still have room even at Terminal 5. There is an area that you're trying
yes.
to market. Has the delay made it more difficult to do that, or does it have any impact at all?
It really hasn't had any impact. We haven't heard anyone that is said that they aren't interested because of that project. So continuing to move forward as normal.
I'm trying to remember, Abby gave me a thorough tour of the port, and I appreciated that. And if I remember right, Terminal 5, this 80 acres, would be served by that big new rail loop that you put
Correct.
in. All that expensive and unique kind of trackage that you've got down there. So you're looking for somebody probably that would want to use that railroad, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah, that would be a perfect location for somebody that has, you have the rail system that goes in, and that's a loop track, so it is would be perfect for unit train operations. It's an efficient rail infrastructure, so I think that would be again attractive infrastructure for somebody that has bulk commodities or something coming through there. Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
So if the terminal eventually is not approved, what kind of business would you try to attract there?
Well, we are in the process of marketing that site, and we do have interest from a variety of folks. Of course, that takes time to determine whether whether there's a fit or whether there is, how strong that interest is. But we have anywhere from bulk operations to auto to liquid bulk. So, we are exploring all of those opportunities.
And what exactly does that mean when you say bulk or liquid?
Sure. Bulk is, like wheat. That's something that is, you put into, it's kind of like going to the store and you're going to the bulk section. You just basically have something that is not packaged. And so that is somebody that is, again, similar to a United Grain, Great Western Malting, where you have kind of a bulk product that fits into a hull of a ship or into a rail car. The break bulk, which you hear us talk about on occasion, is more like project cargo. Wind energy is similar to break bulk because you have pieces of a project cargo. And then liquid bulk is more on the liquid, same thing, something that more is going through a pipeline, jet fuel, those types of things that are liquid bulk.
So in theory, some large wheat company in Montana could sign a contract, say we want to get our wheat down, put it on a ship, and take it out across the Pacific.
Yep, that would be a perfect example for a bulk type of commodity.
So I'm curious, for you personally, setting aside the job if you can for a second,
Sure.
What are your thoughts on the oil terminal? Do you think it would be beneficial for Vancouver?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me that question. That it's really not appropriate for me to really, discuss. I mean, we do support the oil terminal. That's the direction that the commission has provided. That we do have an existing agreement with our tenant, and we are supporting them through the permitting process.
So let's say that it does get approved and it gets built and it goes in, then when you talk to friends or family across the country, would you say, hey, come see our new oil terminal?
Well,
Is that
I would
something you would sell?
Well, again, I don't talk specifically about tenants. I am very passionate about the port and the benefits that the port brings to our community. I was born and raised in Vancouver. I've worked in Vancouver pretty much my entire life. I'm very passionate about creating jobs on this side of the river and ensuring that we have sustainable employment here. And so that's what I love about working at the port, is I have the opportunity to support that for our community. So.
Obviously, there's a port race, commission race going on this fall, and we have candidates with very opposing views on the Vancouver Energy Project, and so should the future port commission decide that that's a project they don't want to pursue, what would be the steps for doing that from the port's point of view? When's the window of opportunity for that, and what kinds of steps would have to happen, without commenting on whether you think that's a good idea or not?
Currently, the way the lease is established is at 90-day intervals. Okay. There's an option for each party to determine whether they want to continue with the lease. Mm-hmm. And so that would be, if the commission determined that that was something that they wanted to discontinue, then that would be
So the
that,
court
that's
could,
what they
could
do.
send a letter to and say we wish to be out of this agreement at the end of the current 90-day period.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can the commission just do that at their will, or does there have to be some underlying reason?
There are certain steps, there are certain notices that you would have to provide, as it's identified in the lease. I don't have the specific details on that, but it does articulate that in the lease on how that notice works and what you need to include in that.
Do you recall, is there a break fee does the port have to pay?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had never heard of one, but I just
Yeah,
wasn't sure.
I don't believe there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we move on, what else should we ask about the terminal itself? Did we cover that?
I think so.
So let's talk about Terminal 1.
Yeah.
And what is going on there, and where does the port, where do we stand on that?
Actually, a lot of exciting things have happened recently at Terminal 1. In fact, I think everyone here is probably well aware of that. We had our concept development plan approved by the City of Vancouver, and that is essentially a master plan. So that was approved in June. And what that was essentially, the phasing, the types of structure that we're interested in building down at Terminal 1 really takes the vision of our commission, our community. There was a lot of work that went into establishing that vision, and so that's what was incorporated into that concept development plan. So that was approved in June. We also removed the north wing of the Red Lion, so that kind of has changed the landscape a little bit down there.
Better, doesn't it?
Yes, it's amazing how much.
Every time I go by there, this looks better.
Yeah. And we have Mark Mathias has done a fantastic job with Warehouse 23. It's, again, being from this community and seeing the Red Lion in at the Key, for many years, and all the going down there for proms and weddings and all kinds of activities through the years, and not seeing that activity down there for a period of time, to see that really build up is pretty exciting. So having that in place right now is the interim until we are able to kind of move on to the final development down there. So the other thing that has happened is we have a lease with T1 Hotel LLC, which is the developer is Vesta Hospitality. So that's very exciting. Again, replacing the rooms. Red Lion, was supported the Hilton and the Convention Center, and so replacing those rooms, I think, is going to be very valuable to encourage additional conventions coming to our communities, which again will also help downtown businesses as well as the Hilton to continue to.
So you don't worry about the hotel being too many hotels.
I think if you look at Vancouver has really transitioned over the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, the downtown revitalization, it's great. I mean, you look at, prior to coming to the Port of Vancouver, I worked for the City of Vancouver for 9 years and was part of the city's team working on redeveloping downtown Vancouver. So it's really exciting to now be part of carrying that down to the waterfront. And so just looking at how Vancouver has evolved over time, I think that we're going to have, we're going to be the place to be. I mean, we don't have to, we'll have the amenities here on this side of the river. So I think it's going to be great. So I think we'll be able to support those hotels. And again, we are replacing the hotels that we've had for the last, I'm trying to think of how long it's. Yes.
It must have been there since at least the 60s, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The original lease with the restaurant was in '58.
I believe that. Not long after prunes
Yeah.
ceased to be a big
That's
problem.
right.
Yeah. So we have the hotel going in, so that's really the next phase is.
What's the schedule on that?
I believe that so Vesta Hospitality is going through their permitting process with the hopes of groundbreaking next year, and I believe grand opening in 2019. So they're.
I can ask a weird technical question. So with the Red Lion, the Port of Vancouver always owned the land in the building and leased it for an operation to an operations company like Red Lion. Is that right? Will that be the same model for this? Will the port finance the construction of the building?
No, it is a ground lease.
Okay.
It's a ground lease, and so T1 Hotels will finance the hotel.
Okay. So the port
Yeah.
doesn't have to come up with the
No.
capital to build this thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then under that agreement, how much does the port get paid?
It is. It varies over a period of time. The hotel is investing in parking, so they are building a parking structure within the hotel, and so we have stepped the port has a revenue share, so we do a room revenue share with the hotel. So essentially, when they're successful, it's a shared success, and that increases over a period of time. And so that allows them to invest the finances that are needed to build the structure, and then get fully operational, and then that
So
steps
that
up
gives
over
them
time.
a path to profitability.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. How big a pain in the butt is it not to have a definitive Columbia River crossing project right there? You don't know whether they're going to put a bridge right through your land.
Well, we do work as much as we can with WashDOT to understand what the footprint the planned footprint might look like. And so as we are phasing Terminal 1, we'll continue to monitor that project to do our best to not be within that footprint.
So hard to tell.
It is. It is a challenge, but we'll continue to move forward. We're going to continue to move forward with the development.
Does that require you to leave some of your land undeveloped or as is right now and not build it out to its full potential?
Not necessarily. That's something that, again, we continue to have that communication. As you're aware, there was recent legislation that supported the discussions to start up again. And so that's pretty exciting to be able to see that take place, so we can have more open conversations about what's going on. But I think it's just more of communication, making sure that we're working together. But I wouldn't say that it necessarily limits our ability to develop the property.
Oh, okay.
How many acres do you have at Terminal 1?
We have 10 acres.
And exactly where is the footprint of that?
So I have pictures. I have pictures here if that will help it. So we essentially are it's at Columbia Street and not quite to Esther Street. So, basically when you're on the waterfront, so we have Columbia Street, and then there's 4 blocks going towards the west is the port's footprint.
So will it butt up to the waterfront development?
It will. In fact, the 2 blocks that are between that 10 acres and Esther Street is leased by Columbia Waterfront LLC. So we work with them to look at their development plans on those sites as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you worry that your plans for there will compete against the waterfront, or do you think they can be mutually beneficial?
I believe they can be mutually beneficial. In fact, I've been working with them on, how do we work together. I mean, we have a fantastic park that the city is building right now. We have the Renaissance Trail. That Renaissance Trail will continue along the waterfront and go through the property. So that's all.
Got a grant or something for that.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did,
last
and
week.
we did. Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah,
I was
that's
happy about that.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. So just continuing to look for opportunities like that. But I think we have a public space there. We have the marketplace that we're looking at. I really think that, the waterfront's going to be such an amazing development for Vancouver. And I don't think there's any competition. I think it's more of we just work together, because I think we all have the same vision. We want to have a vibrant waterfront, and so just working together on that.
The amphitheater remains, right? That's part of your plan?
Not sure yet.
Not sure, okay.
Yeah, that might. We have some renderings, and as we're getting closer to developing that site, we'll continue to evolve on what that final design looks like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What other plans are included with that site?
What other
Plans?
What other? Well, we have where the current footprint is of the Warehouse 23 site. That's where we're looking at doing a year-round marketplace, similar to a Pike Street or a Pybus type market. And then have public space where people can come down and maybe have tables, chairs, sit at the water, maybe some type of water feature. And we have the boat ramp down there, so probably have something similar to that. So that's really the kind of the public space. We talked about the hotel. And then the balance of the site will be a mixed use, so office space, residential, commercial. So as we work with our developers to figure out what that ultimately will look like.
What kind of residential and how many spaces are you thinking for that? We have an estimated amount. I don't know the number off the top of my head. And that will be really the developer that will work on kind of identifying what's really financially sustainable for the development. A lot of times you use mixed, especially to support parking. Parking is always, a challenge, because you're looking at how do you maximize the space. You have day use and evening use, and how do you balance that all together to make it financially support the project.
It seems odd to think that parking is going to be a problem over there. So it never used to be a problem 10 years ago.
I know. It's amazing how far we've come along.
Exactly. So, and then there's a small office building there that probably would be demolished.
Columbia Shores, yes, that is in the footprint of the hotel. So we'll be working. It's similar location, and I think it's on one corner of the hotel. So we'll be working with those tenants, and we keep them informed on what's going on. But that will ultimately be going down.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the more interesting uses over there, I think, is the cruise ship dock that's over there. Will there be any amenities? Are you going to be designing anything with that in mind to try to capture that market and kind of keep what you've got?
Well, one thing I didn't mention when we were talking about the public spaces is history and art, and just the Vancouver culture. I think that's very important. I think that's one of the great things that we can offer for folks that are coming on the cruise ships. Are they're really wanting to have a historic experience. The Lewis and Clark and all that, and so
already shuttling them over to the fort.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the port has some great history. Vancouver, just that site in itself has a lot of history there. So, I think kind of folding that into an experience for the folks from the river cruises. Again, if we have that marketplace, that would be something that would be very exciting to support local businesses. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of amenities that will be exciting for folks coming through the river cruise.
Now, all of that's kind of outside the typical realm for a port to handle. Are other ports around the country getting more involved in things like that, in mixed-use spaces and different kinds of development? Is that just kind of the wave of a sign of the times?
You know, there are a lot of ports that are getting involved in waterfront redevelopment, and in fact, we have gone and seen and talked with other ports about their experiences. You know, you're always learning and you know, wanting to see how folks did it, and so we have met with other ports, and they are working on, you know, that's the nice thing about ports. You know, I had mentioned about environmental remediation or cleaning up sites for bringing back to public use, and so that's part of why you see ports get involved in waterfront development, where there has been industry decades ago, and so it's an opportunity for ports to come in and revitalize those sites, and so that's what you're seeing is the revitalization of the waterfront.
What are some other ports that are down there?
Oh, let's see. I think Port of Everett is working on waterfront. I believe Port of Bellingham is working on some waterfront redevelopment. You have areas in the Seattle area. I think it's Point Ruston, I believe it is. That I don't know if that was the.
That's in Tacoma, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe that's Tacoma.
Yeah.
But they've done. They had a special district that was working on revitalizing that site. So yeah, there's a lot of great waterfront development projects out there.
I know Port of Ridgefield is excited about their new bridge, so that
Yes.
they can work on their waterfront.
Yeah, yeah.
So what else is going on at the port?
Boy,
Because those are kind of the two high
Yeah.
profile, the oil terminal and
sure.
Terminal 1.
Sure.
Those get a lot of attention, but what else is the port involved with?
Well, I will start with West Vancouver Freight Access. So that's been something we've been talking about for over a decade. West Vancouver Freight Access really was a project to build rail capacity, and that was broken up into 21 different projects, and we are working
It's a
on.
very expensive project, total cost.
It is, but has brought substantial benefit to our tenants and has attracted new companies coming to our community. So I think the investment is really benefiting our area as well as the region, because one of the original purposes of West Vancouver Freight Access was we had congestion on the main line, because when you had a train coming into the port, it had to be broken up into sections, and so you would stop the traffic. So it actually has given the ability for the rail to go through efficiently. So it's been a significant benefit from a regional standpoint. We've also seen investment from our tenants. United Grain is a perfect example. They've invested roughly $90 million into infrastructure. They've expanded their facilities, diversifying the commodities that they used. Not only do they do wheat, but now they do corn and soybeans. And yeah, so
This has always been just a wheat term.
yeah, so it's extremely beneficial because you know, when you're dealing with markets or you know, droughts or different things that impact that commodity, you can then look to another commodity to help stabilize that. Stabilize the revenue, stabilize the workforce, and so by being able to diversify the commodities that they have going through their facility, they've been able to stabilize and grow. In fact, they, I believe they were at, Abby might need to help me with statistics, they were at 3.2-ish, and they're at about 5.4 million.
That's right.
Metric tons now.
Of all grains.
Of all grains.
Wow.
So yeah, substantial increase. So again, a benefit from West Vancouver Freight Access to be able to expand that facility and help that company become a stronger organization. So going back to West Vancouver Freight Access, we are finishing our last two projects, and we will have those done in the first half of next year. And again, something that we've been working on for a long time, and so it's really great to see that finally come to be finished.
I feel like that maybe is about a 10-year project, that whole thing.
Yes,
Is
yeah,
that right?
yep, yeah. It's been roughly a decade, so a long time.
What has been the total cost on that?
Our estimate was about $250 million on that. I think we're going to be in the 230 something million is where we're going to land on that. But we'll know more early next year as we finalize that project. So that, again, has been a huge investment for the port. And the other piece of it, and by the way, if you have not had a tour recently, I highly encourage you to come out, because you would be amazed at even if you have a 6-month gap in the time that you go out there, it's pretty incredible to see how that project has really changed the port. The other thing,
and I'm sorry,
yeah.
That project, how has it been financed?
So we are using revenue bonds to finance that project, and so essentially we use the port's operating revenue to support our financing on that. The other exciting project that we have going on is Centennial Industrial Park. So
Yeah, there's a new building every time I go out.
yeah, yeah, and it's amazing how fast those walls go up.
They're huge.
Yeah. So we are working. So we redeveloped Centennial Industrial Park. That was.
Looks like nothing there before.
Yeah, there was an old farm, the Ruffner farm, that had been there.
Yeah.
In fact, we deconstructed the many of the buildings at the farm, and a lot of those were reused in the community, which was really neat because there was a lot of history there. So again, we were able to invest in infrastructure and get the site ready to build. Sunlight Supply is out there, and so they are getting ready to finalize their headquarters there, and so that's very exciting. And then we have our Centennial building going up, and we anticipate having that complete probably the end of the summer. So early fall, end of summer.
How's the leasing going on that?
We do have interested parties that are looking at it, and so once we get to a place where there's, more serious interest, then we will bring those before the commission.
Are you
And
trying to lease it to several tenants and then each have a piece of it, or you're not trying to find one big tenant, are you?
well, what we intentionally left that building flexible.
Okay.
Because we wanted to have the opportunity to, the optimum marketing opportunity, or, to have that site available for any size tenant. And so it's a 125,000 square foot building, but it's can be divided up to 5 different sections. But you can have one big tenant, somebody that takes a couple of those sections, so it's very flexible.
That makes sense, because maybe you'll have somebody get in there and then they take a fifth of it, and then pretty soon they need 3/5 of it.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, we have seen a lot of success with our tenants in finding opportunities for them to grow too. So, again, our hope is to see our tenants successful so
But
they
you
can
don't have
expand.
any tenants announced for that yet?
Not yet. No, no.
What kind of tenants are you trying to attract? What type of industry?
Those
that we
are
will see for?
industrial, manufacturing, light industrial. We don't have any specific sectors that we're focusing on, but whether it's folks that are in our area that are looking to expand, or brand new company coming from out of the area looking to locate. So we've had interest from a variety of folks.
And how many acres do you have out there?
We have, I believe it's a total of 105 acres, and I think we have approximately roughly 40 left for development, 40 or 50 left for
We
development.
have the 50-acre parcel behind the existing CIP, and within CIP, I think we've got a 7-acre and a 9-acre, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, 2 separate parcels still
And I
left.
did bring you some material that will give you some information on that. Yeah. And then, so the other thing with Centennial Industrial Building is that is solar ready. So we're preparing that so it's solar ready, and again, maximum flexibility. So that's another exciting project. We also have, I'd mentioned earlier that it's very unique for a West Coast port to have the ability to expand we do have 500 acres called Gateway that is to the west of the port that is also available to develop as well. So
No infrastructure on that yet, is there?
there is no infrastructure, so
that's
that would be a
kind of
significant
ace
investment.
in the hole for you guys, or
Yeah.
okay.
So that one, that's in our, that's future vision, but that we would have to invest in. And as we were talking about West Vancouver Freight Access, that's been a significant investment over the last 10 years. So
I remember where that is. That's past Terminal 5 and goes all the way to the Flushing Channel, maybe?
yeah, it's on the
Is that
other
right?
side of the Flushing Channel in that area. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I did bring that information so you can kind of visually see where some of those facilities are.
So, but that's for the future at this point, no specific plans
Correct.
for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Any timetable where you can start thinking about that, or?
I think that we are, if an opportunity presents itself, then we are evaluating. If we have a company that says, "Hey, I'm interested in that facility," then we look at that. But we are working on a variety of projects. In fact, we're working with the Port of Portland to do an auto study to see if what the auto market is doing. That could be a potential for that site. And so,
When you say that, do you mean imports or?
yeah. Well, either.
Okay.
Either.
You're mostly in the import business. Now, Subaru doesn't send too many out, does it?
No.
I didn't think
No. I don't remember if we have any going out. I don't have that
And
information.
I don't
I've
know.
heard before, how many Subarus come through here?
We have roughly 85,000. I think they did 90 last year. Was it 90,000 last year?
It's
Yeah.
a record year for them.
Yeah.
Keep waiting for them to lose one and I can find it, but it never seems.
So another thing that the port is doing is we are working on our strategic plan. So, I just talked about a lot of projects that we've been working on for a number of years, and our current strategic plan has served us well through that process. But now it's time to think of what the future brings and what the next steps are. So we are working on. You'll be hearing more about our strategic plan process.
What time period will that cover?
It will
Looking out how far?
probably 10 years. Typically we'll look at a 10-year vision, roughly.
How does the Port Commission affect that strategic plan? Do they provide a lot of input on that, or do they kind of bless what the staff work does, or how does that? How are they involved?
They are a key component of creating that vision for the port, so they will play a major role in that.
That would probably be happening after the election, I'm guessing.
I would actually like to see it happen over the next several months, to include both Commissioner Wolf, who has been with the port he'll be with the port for 12 years and has been a significant, impactful community member. And so have him part of that process, as well as whoever the incoming commissioner is, so we can have both of that.
So you'd like to get it launched before Commissioner Wolf's term
Yeah,
expires at the
yeah,
end of the
and then continue that, so we have the input from both commissioners. Yeah.
Is it even possible to come up with a plan not knowing what's going to happen with the oil terminal?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Port has many. We have a pretty substantial port district, and we are in a footprint that's just right down here on the waterfront. So I think that there's opportunities for the port to help support our community in many ways. Again, we are a unique entity that is focused on economic, supporting our taxpayers from an economic standpoint, whether that's creating jobs, whether that's creating tax revenue to support public services. There's a substantial tax component that helps support police, fire, public infrastructure, and so, and again, more importantly, making sure that we have diverse jobs in our community, so we can support our community through any times, and so I think that there's opportunities for us to continue to work with the city and the county and look for ways that the port can support opportunities beyond just the footprint down here at the waterfront. So, yeah.
You think the future plan would continue to anticipate about the same level of taxpayer support as the current plan?
You know, that is a direction that we typically get from, we'll get from the commission. I think, again, the hope is that we'll continue to be financially strong and that we can support our efforts and investment through our revenue generation. So I can't really answer that because that's really guidance that we get from the commission. But I'm always looking at financial stability. I'd like to see our port strong, whether the economy is strong. And during times where, when we had the recession, I think that we were very fortunate in that the port was able to continue to be strong through those difficult times. And we were able to continue with West Vancouver Freight Access. We were able to have contractors working and help support our tenants who may have had some challenging times. So my hope is that we keep financially stable and continue to grow and also be strong.
Kind of a leg on the stool that provides some stability.
It is. I think the benefit of having that component to it is that is another financing tool that we can use because we talked about revenue bonds that we pledge port revenues, but the general obligation bonds that we get is another financing tool that we can use that is really supported by those taxes.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything else? Julianna, any final thoughts?
No, I just, again, my hope is to continue to share all the great things that the port can do for our community. I encourage the community to come out. I encourage people to learn more about what their port is doing. We have a lot of exciting things, and we do that through a variety of ways. And we brought some information here, but I think the more that our community can be involved, the more our port can help provide for a strong, vibrant community. So anyway, I just, like I mentioned, this is where I've been my entire life, and I'm pretty excited to be in the role that I am to help with everything that the city and the county and our region is doing. So.
Great. Well, thanks very much. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.